so great I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with me, ain't no matter here, just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Hi, good night, everybody, and welcome to another edition of This Just In, the post-Super Bowl 56 episode of This Just In. I'm your host, Neil Hoyt. Yes, I know I am the guy that's usually behind the scenes and talks basketball, but here I am. I am here on this special Valentine's edition. Forget about that. We just here talking about Super Bowl 56, Just In. As you know, the Rams defeated the Bengals, the Cinderella story of the NFL. They defeated the Bengals 23-22 win. Aaron Donald had an amazing stop at the end to essentially win the Super Bowl for the now LA Rams. Justin, we can go from the first topic. The Rams win Super Bowl 56. How did the Rams win Super Bowl 56 in your opinion?
I know, Neil, you're behind the set and you're probably tired of hearing my cliche statements over and over and over. And I have three of them. One wasn't pertinent, but the two, you've heard me say this all the time, Neil. Football games are won on the line of scrimmage. So we'll start with that favorite saying. Again, you heard me for the last week or 2 weeks. I could not pick the darlings, the Cinderellas, the Cincinnati Bengals simply because there was just a glaring mismatch. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL against one of the best defensive fronts. And it showed up in the second half. They did a lot of good stuff, Neil. Got the ball up quickly, ran the ball effectively in the first half. And, you know, their defensive coordinator made some fantastic adjustments. But really, they ticked off Aaron Donald, which is really a bad thing. It was when he pushed Joe Burrow out of bounds, and then they got in his face, and that ticked him off. And you saw it in the second half. 67 sacks came in the second half. And that doesn't even account for the pressure, which I call a sack, as you just mentioned with Aaron Donald finishing the game. They just got after him with Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller. You heard me call those names over and over all week. And there was a reason why they were going to dominate this game. And they did it in the second half. And also credit goes to someone like Ashawn Robinson. And you can't win this game without him because he was the run stuffer up the middle that stopped the run in the second half, put the Bengals behind down and distance, forced them to have to throw the ball. And you heard me say, Neil, if it's the second half and the Cincinnati Bengals are dropping back, that is playing right into the Rams' hands. So I've said this all along. The Bengals had too much of a deficiency, too much of a mismatch on their offensive line versus the Rams' front for me to pick them, and the second half showed. And the second cliche line, I know you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but it holds true. Players over plays. And they're like, if you look in the second half when they needed it most, their stars came to play. Let's start with Matthew Stafford. Everyone talks about, Patrick Mahomes and his lovely no-look passes that he throws all around. And it was Aaron Rodgers who pumped the brakes and said, but hold on, there's a guy in Detroit that wears number 9 who was doing this long before, Patrick Mahomes got in the league. And we saw it last night. One of the critical plays in the game, Matt Stafford is looking at an underneath receiver, a check down receiver, holds Von Bell on that person, just waiting for Cooper Kupp to get free. And, he holds Von Bell on that underneath coverage, throws the ball right behind Von Bell where you're supposed to, not looking at Cooper Kupp to keep that fourth quarter drive alive. And, he scores the go-ahead touchdown, essentially wins the game. And when we talk about whether you like Matt Stafford or not, he has been the most clutch quarterback in this entire playoffs. I think he has. He's the only quarterback in playoff history to have 3 game-winning drives in 3 successive playoff games in the same postseason. Then you shift the postseason or the Super Bowl MVP rather in Cooper Kupp. Held quiet for most of the game until, again, the fourth quarter, especially that game-winning drive. Caught all four of his targets, including the game-winning touchdown in the end zone. And not just that, he drew two, I want to say, defensive penalties, one very questionable that extended the drive. And those still have nothing to do with the 4th and 1 carry he had that basically saved the Rams season. It was a situation you could see them going into that game-winning drive, Neil, where Matt Stafford and Sean McVay basically said, look, no matter what happens here, we have to get Cooper Kupp the ball. Whatever play design, whatever situation it is, we are going to Cooper Kupp. That's why I always say players over plays. And the guy that we just can't not mention, Aaron Donald. As I said, Neil, they ticked him off, and it was the worst thing they ever did. It was like game over from there. There was a drive Cincinnati had looking to extend the lead by 2 touchdowns. A touchdown and a field goal. Aaron Donald came up with a big sack, forced them to kick a field goal. Then, on that last drive, let's start with the, I think, 3rd and 1, Samaji P run. 3rd and 1, you would figure, okay, they're going to extend drive here. Aaron Donald shoots up the middle, tackles him almost with one hand, forces 4th down. Very next play, as I said, it's essentially a sack. He's double team, gets around the double team, gets to Joe Burrow. No time, had to get rid of the football. Game over. Your 3 stars, when they needed it the most, came up big. And as I say, players over players. So how did the Rams win this football game, Neil? They won it on the line of scrimmage, and their star players came up biggest when they needed them the most.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you said big players make big plays, right? But the officiating, it did come up big in the fourth quarter, particularly coming on to the last drive. Well, seemingly the last drive, where back to back, there were several penalties against the Bengals. Well, the one in the middle was on both teams, but it seemed that the officiating was going to upstage what was going to happen on field. So can you talk a bit about what you saw in terms of the officiating? Do you think that made the difference?
I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but I don't think so. And I'll explain why. I know, don't get me wrong, the officiating was not the best. Like, early on in the game, it's clear they had a mantra of let them play. And I think they let them play too much. And then it's unfortunate that they reined them in on LA's game-winning drive because it would give the appearance that they were trying their best to let LA win the game, especially on that mystifying holding call on Logan Wilson. I want to say the red zone on Cooper Kupp. That's ticky-tack, and I'm not calling that. The one in the end zone, however, right after that, Cooper Kupp on the grab of the jersey, that's blatant. You have to call that one. That is blatant.
Mm-hmm.
The one before that, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. But the reason I don't think the officiating decided the game is because when you look on the flip side, Neil, not letting it play favor or not blowing it and letting it play favor the Bengals early on, especially on the first drive of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
If we thought that I want to say holding on Logan Wilson was bad, but what about the no call for the offensive pass interference on T. Higgins' touchdown? He basically grabs, Jalen Ramsey's face mask, pulls him to the ground, gets, he's basically free because of that and strolls in for a touchdown. Like, if you ask me which of the two are more egregious, I'm going to say that play. And that play is huge. A lot of people will say that didn't come in the fourth quarter. But the Bengals took the lead on that play, and momentum shifted because of that no call. And to me, that is more egregious of the two. And then again, one of the reasons I don't have an issue saying the referees did not decide the game, Neil, is because even after those two questionable fourth quarter calls that went the Rams' way, do you know, Neil, the Bengals still had the ball with over a minute and 30 seconds left. in their hands, and all they needed to do was drive the field, not even the length of the field, for a game time field goal. So it's not like they didn't have the ball in their hands to decide the game. But again, players over plays, and Aaron Donald decided, I'm the bigger,
I'm the larger Mobby, as we say here, Barbados.
Larger Mobby, and I'm going to finish this game. And the reality is, right, and I don't want to take anything away from the Bengals, Neil, because you know I like Joe Burrow, I like Jamar Chase, I like T. Higgins, I like how the roster is constituted. I love Evan McPherson. And for those who didn't realize, the kicker, Evan McPherson, instead of going into the locker room, he stood up and watched the halftime show. I personally would have done the same thing.
Agreed.
I love the team, Neil. They were fortunate not to have been blown up. And I say that had OBJ not been hurt, Odell Beckham Jr., remember the Rams got 13-3 in this game. And things go out to hell. The Bengals get back in this game the moment that OBJ gets out knee injury. I think he had 2 catches for 50-something yards and that touchdown. They had no answer for both Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. on the field at the same time. The game turns on its head the moment that he leaves with that knee injury. They're fortunate to be in the game. And again, it's that offensive pass interference by T. Higgins that wasn't called that basically put them ahead. So to answer your question in that long roundabout way, I don't think officiating decided the game.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do agree with you there, because coming on to the end, Aaron Donald, as you said, made an amazing play to get at Joe Burrow, as you know, or one of our favorite analysts here would say, Joseph Lee Burrow. Shout out to Marcus, to Marcus of the Goat Talk podcast. But now that we're talking about Aaron Donald, now as I was watching the game, I was watching the dying moments, and I saw that play, right? And in my opinion, I was like, you know, this is such a monumental play, especially what he did during the game. One can obviously, well, I know Cooper Kupp obviously got them to 23 points, right? He scored the touchdown, essentially the winning touchdown, and he was amazing on that final drive for the Rams. However, I believe Aaron Donald could have possibly been the MVP. What do you think? Do you agree with Cooper Kupp being your Super Bowl MVP?
I have no problem with it. I just would have preferred if they had shared it. Because as I mentioned earlier in the game, they were the two people. If you are saying who won this game, Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, like, you don't win this game without their two performances in the dying moments of the fourth quarter. Again, I have no problem with Cooper Kupp winning it. As I said, the fourth quarter catches, the 4th and 1 carry that went for 7 yards, extended the game winning touchdown, getting those 2, 1 holding call, 1 pass interference that extended the drive. Cooper Kupp came up big. But Neil, I don't know if anyone came up bigger than Aaron Donald when it mattered the most. As I said, the Bengals had a prime opportunity to really push and extend their lead. Aaron Donald said, nope. Huge stop. They had to force a field goal or settle for a field goal. And then you saw the back-to-back plays on that final drive that said, you yourself said it, Neil. Like, that's a 3rd and 1 carry. You figure, all right, well, this is easy. Nope. Aaron Donald tackles him by himself, a solo tackle, forces the 4th and 1, and then game over after that. That's essentially a sack.
Yep.
In that fourth quarter, he had 2 sacks, tackle for no gain, the pressure. Not just for stories, because I'm not one just for stories. I thought the impact of both players, I thought Aaron Donald should have shared the MVP award. I have no problem with Cooper Kupp winning it, but it would have been better because of the impact of both guys. Like, one doesn't win without the other. One offense, one defense. I would have loved to see them share. So yeah, I'm with you, Neil. Like, Aaron Donald should have walked off that field with a share of the MVP award.
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, right? Because even though you're talking about Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp, we still have to mention Matt Stafford. Now, we know Matt Stafford would have obviously had such a storied. Well, storied would be a depends on how you look at storied. I mean, he was pretty much in oblivion there in Detroit for many years, and we all know the the trials and tribulations of the Detroit Lions over the years. But here now, Matt Stafford stands as the quarterback of the winning Super Bowl LA Rams. What do you think this does for Matt Stafford's legacy?
I'll say this. It shows that he's more than a stat stuffer. I know the conversation, you can have a legitimate conversation now, or at least start to have it. Is this guy a Hall of Famer? And I'm not going to go to either extreme. I'm not going to say he's definitely not, nor am I going to do what others have been saying that he's a shoo-in. Like, no. So here's the case. Matt Stafford's numbers, Neil, are extremely great. In his, 13 years in the league, he is 12th all-time in touchdowns, 12th all-time in passing yards. And now, because of these 4 straight playoff wins, he has actual above 500 win record in terms of postseason plays, 4-3. All 4 of these playoff wins come in with LA. And it's ironic because, for all we've said about him in Detroit, this run, the moment that he gets out of Detroit, the moment he steps out of Michigan, he shows people, it was Detroit all along because I have 4 straight wins. I get to Super Bowl the moment I leave. I know he has a Super Bowl champ. And that's like, whenever you say Matt Stafford, whatever you say the stat stuffer or whatever not, you can't deny the fact that he's a Super Bowl champion. And he had not only just a Super Bowl champion, Neil, he has a defining moment in the Super Bowl. He wasn't just carried. He has that game-winning drive after OBJ went down and the Rams offense looked like it was blown to hell. Matt Stafford is responsible for that game-winning drive, so he can say that. I think what this does for his legacy, Neil, if he gets a couple Pro Bowl nods after this, right, I'm going to say he could be a fringe Hall of Famer. I think he's going to be on the outside looking in, but he will be up for consideration, Neil. And the reason I say this is when you get in the Hall of Fame of most sports, there are 2 things that put you in: numbers and accolades. Matt Stafford has those numbers. Whether or not we say it's because of the era, because of the explosion of passing yards, because it's a passing league now. Regardless of that, he has numbers that will put him in. The issue, Neil, is his individual accolades. Thankfully for him, he can say he's a Super Bowl champ now, but he only has 1 Pro Bowl appearance in 2014, and even then, that came as an alternate. He doesn't have any Pro Bowl appearances, and on top of that, obviously that means he has no All-Pros, no first team, second team All-Pro nods. He has no accolades other than to say he's a Super Bowl champ and a 1-time Pro Bowler. If he's to get in the Hall of Fame, Neil, I think he's going to have to improve on that, get a couple, 2 or 3 Pro Bowl nods. But because of the Super Bowl victory, Neil, because of the fact that he's the only quarterback who can say he has 3 straight game-winning drives in the same postseason, he will be in the conversation of getting into the Hall of Fame. That's where I stand on it. But I'm not saying he's a shoo-in, nor am I saying he's definitely not a Hall of Famer. So I'll say he's on the outside looking in, but you have to have the conversation now.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Aaron Donald. In my opinion, my MVP. He obviously had a storied career, right? He's always been a Ram. He's played, from 2014 to now. He's, been to the postseason 4 times. He has a storied career. But do you think it's time for him to call it quits? He's, achieved. You saw him after he made his play. My man showing where he want the ring finger. He want this war ring to fit the ring finger. Do you think it is him calling it quits now? He's accomplished everything he needed to accomplish, especially in the fashion with which he did it. Do you think this is time for him to hang it up?
I don't think it's time for him because I'm still only 30 years old. And what I found interesting is that right before we started the show, Neil, he was on Sports Center. He, Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford all blinging some nice pretty shades in front Disney World. And he himself said he never brought up the retirement talk. But what I find interesting, he did dismiss it. He didn't say, I am not retiring, I'm returning next season. So let's go through his accolades quickly. You mentioned some of them. And there's a reason I'm going to bring up his accolades. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, that's impressive. And I think he's probably been robbed of 2 other surefire Defensive Player of the Year awards. An 8-time Pro Bowler, a 7th-time first-team All-Pro, Rookie of the Year, and now Super Bowl champ. And unfortunately, got robbed also. Well, not robbed.
Robbed, yeah.
Likely should have been named a Super Bowl MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there are any other players who have that resume outside of Lawrence Taylor, maybe. Neil, we all saw him point to the ring finger. We all saw the emotion on his face. He was crying. I'm not sure if you remember 3 years ago when he lost that Super Bowl, he cried then. I say all this to say he's never been one for me who has played this game for accolades, and he has all of them.
Mm-hmm. Passion and heart.
I think he's done. Because what else is there for him to prove? What else is there for him to get? He was playing all this time for the ultimate team award, the Super Bowl, and he has that. And people will say, but he's only 30. Yeah, but he's also not a quarterback. This has been 8 years in the league, and while 8 years may sound like a little, both you and I know that the average NFL player only plays 3 to 4 years tops, and then 8-year career, especially for defensive linemen, is a pretty lengthy career, because this is a guy who relies so much on his athletic gifts, his size, his strength, his speed, and a guy who commands double teams, sometimes even triple teams, on a per play basis. All of that takes its toll. He's not a quarterback who's being protected and getting calls and not getting hit every game. Neil, every single play requires him hitting his head or onto something. That's a lot of head banging, and we all know about the effects of CTE by now. It may come as a surprise to a lot of people, but when you have 8 Pro Bowl appearances, your 7-time first team All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Neil, now Super Bowl champ, 98 sacks in your illustrious career. What else are you going to play for? What is there to prove? And when you hear people talk, they already have him, despite only playing 8 years, as one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I didn't see much of Lawrence Taylor play, but I can tell you I saw Reggie White, I saw Bruce Smith, I saw Deion Sanders. And as much as Reggie played a lot for us and helped us win a Super Bowl, I can tell you this for a fact. Aaron Donald is the best defensive lineman I have ever seen. And even having seen Deion, having seen Reggie, he's the best defensive player I've ever seen. And that says a lot. Because I've seen Bruce Smith as well, and Bruce Smith has, 200 sacks in his entire career, the career leader in sacks. When you talk about Bruce Smith and Reggie White, those are primary pass rushers playing on the outside. Neil, this man plays on the inside, and it's so hard to get to the quarterback. But you yourself heard Brian Bolster come on this show up to yesterday and talk about how hard it is for quarterbacks to deal with the pressure coming from in front of your face. It's one thing when you have pass rushers coming from the outside, because all you have to do is step up in the pocket, you can evade them, or give them a bite and a little move, let them come in, and then you can evade them rushing on the outside. It is so much different when you're not game planning from a guy coming from the inside, and it is easier to double team an interior pass rusher. This man doesn't care. He sheds blocks for lunch. He eats running backs like they don't belong in the game. He is not a one-trick pony. He stops and run. He's great against the pass. He takes on double teams to help people like Leonard Floyd and Von Miller look good. Neil, this is arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. There's nothing left for him to prove. He won a Super Bowl. Sad to say, I think we are going to see another 30-year-old like Andrew Luck and Megatron and Barry Sanders call it quits.
Well, we had an amazing Super Bowl, right? In my opinion, I think that it lived up to the height and the expectation. Obviously, everybody predicted a 34-31 end score, but the score was relatively close. It did end up in a kick, field goal, essentially making the difference. But these two teams, they came out of their respective conferences being not touted as expected to go to the Super Bowl. They both made it. Now the LA Rams were 12-5 coming out of the NFC. AFC was obviously the Bengals coming in at 10-7. Do you think these two teams can make a repeat appearance in next year's Super Bowl?
I will say it's not out of the likelihood. I mean, these two rosters are very, very talented. There's a reason they're both here. And it's not like they had a soft run. One side, the Rams had to go through the greatest player of all time in Tom Brady, who was defending champ, beat them, in a game in which Tom Brady had yet another comeback, and Matthew Stafford survived that. Then they had to beat the hated division rivals to get here. On the opposite side, the Bengals would have gone into a tough venue in Arrowhead against a team who made their fourth straight AFC title game appearance and went to two prior Super Bowls in succession. So it's not like these are fluke runs or, these teams are, well, I want to say battle tested, although the Bengals are young. I will say I have the Rams more so to get back here than the Bengals because of the path of least resistance. Words are hard today. The Rams, when you look, yes, they have key players to return in free agency bigger than Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller.
Right.
I think Von is going to come back on a cheaper salary, and even if he doesn't return, he's an aging pass rusher that you can probably address in a deeper round of draft. I know they don't have first-round draft picks till 2024, but you can find a cheap pass rusher in free agency, or you can address that some other how. I still think Von Miller comes back because he was the one who told OBJ to join him in LA. And I think somebody OBJ who's made enough money now, I don't think money is going to be a concern of him because we know about the money he makes, in the endorsements and stuff off the field. We all know that the stars love to live in LA. OBJ has a good friendship with LeBron that's well known, and they have their off-field things. So there's no better place for a big star to be than in LA. I don't think he needs the bright lights. And this is going to sound bad, so I'm going to wait for the social media world to tear me apart. The OBJ knee injury actually helps LA. It didn't help them in the game, and I'll explain why. OBJ was going to be the highest paid receiver to hit the open market because my own Devontae Adams, I expect the Packers to hit him with a franchise tag, keeping him from reaching the open market. Now, obviously, a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. in the open market, Neil, is going to fetch a huge price. The issue, it's an injured Odell Beckham Jr. hitting the open market. And I think that's going to drive down his price a bit. And, he's not going to get exactly market value for what he's worth. I just believe that he just likes the limelight of LA. He likes his teammates. And they wooed him there. They did everything to ask him to come. I don't think he leaves. And in that regard, if he doesn't leave, Neil, I think when you look at all of the turnover in the NFC, my own Packers, we all know the situation. No one knows whether Aaron Rodgers is returning or not. So that's one contender, like the influx. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady has announced his retirement. The Seattle Seahawks, we don't know what's going on with them. They haven't even made the playoffs. Don't know the situation with Russ. The Arizona Cardinals, no. There's a situation with Kyler Murray, and this same Rams team just obliterating them in the playoffs. Neil, right now, you have to say the Rams are the favorites to repeat as NFC champs. You can't say that about the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, it's a young team. Quarterback is in place. The wide receivers are all on rookie contracts, so you're thinking everything is good. They have a young running back, a young core. The issue is to tell everyone there's no guarantees in football because let's look at it. Dan Marino, like Joe Burrow, went to Super Bowl in his second season. Neil, would you know he never went back to another one? We talked about the Kansas City Chiefs. We all looked at that as a budding dynasty. They haven't won Super Bowl, haven't won another one yet. We all thought for the last 3 years that the Buffalo Bills are a team on the rise. They've only been to one AFC title game. Lamar Jackson. He hasn't even been to AFC title game yet. And they say that all three of these teams are in that same conference, as well as Justin Herbert's Chargers. The path of least resistance is really the NFC. Like, you can see a situation. I know everyone wants to love Joe Burrow. Everyone wants to talk about how young this team is. Neil, here's the thing, right? If you ask me today, bet money on the two extremes, that the Bengals win a Super Bowl or they never even get to one, you put a gun to my head and tell me, bet. I'd actually bet, Neil, right? Even though your gun isn't loaded, I'd bet that the Bengals don't return to another Super Bowl. Look at my own Packers. Aaron Rodgers was young when he first went and won his Super Bowl. We've not been back since 2011. These things aren't guaranteed, and the AFC is loaded with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. There's no guarantee. There's no even guarantee that Joe Burrow even wins the division again, because it's the same AFC North with Lamar Jackson, also with Mike Tomlin, who has never in his 15 years as a head coach had a losing record. I'm not telling you this is not going to be an AFC playoff contender for years to come, because they are set up that way. But I could easily see a scenario where the Bengals never get back to the playoffs. Back to the Super Bowl. Please don't put that in. But this is live, so I can't even edit it out.
Can't take it out.
Can't take it back. But like, reality situation is, if you had to ask me which of the two are more likely to get back, going the Rams.
Well, I could agree with that. And, it makes more sense given what we see from their team and how it's constructed. So I completely agree with you, but nobody wants to hear my opinion. Your name is on the title card.
Hold on, but we can talk about something that they want to hear your opinion on just now, though.
Yep. And we save the best for last. We had the halftime show. The halftime show saw the likes of Dr. Dre, Snoop, Doggy Dogg. We saw Mary J. Blige. We saw 50 Cent in a surprise performance. We saw Eminem, Kendrick, Lamar. What did you think? I'm going to go first.
I'm saying, no one wants to hear me.
Yeah, basically, this was an amazing halftime show. When you guys were obviously in a group chat, the team at This Just In, you guys were having a live thing, and then I joined in when I could. And I thought it was a very good performance. I thought it was an excellent performance. I actually think it's in the top maybe 5 or even 3 performance. You did say that you believe it's up there with the greatest. I don't know if I would say the greatest, because in my mind, certain ones stuck out to me. I remembering like Michael Jackson, which is one of them. Beyonce's was pretty good as well. But this one was very creative in its stage design for sure. I loved the stage. The stage was so creative. They created essentially an apartment block. Obviously LA being a very metropolitan place, it's very, big on their apartment buildings, etc. But it was cool to see, especially as the performers, Snoop did his piece, he went down into the apartment and chilled, and then Mary J. Blige, she finished her segment, she went down and chilled. So it was really cool to see. And individually, I liked how Dr. Dre did his intro and everything, like he's producing, and then he got up, in comes Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg does his thing. Mary J. Blige did a very excellent performance. I loved, before I got to Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, because no one expected 50 Cent to be there. 50 just came out of the sky. And the thing about it is, it's so funny because we obviously know Dr. Dre, Eminem, their affiliate, and how they brought in 50 Cent, and he is as much as LA as the other is there, right? He's had a very good career. So it was very interesting that he was the surprise performance, and he came down, he was hanging upside down, etc., like that. So it was really cool. I think it was about 14 and a half minutes long, and I think it gave you the vibe of LA and not the Hollywood part, because a lot of people, when they think of LA, they think of Hollywood, but this was LA, this is Compton, this is North
Inglewood.
Inglewood. Yep, this is all of those places that make up where the Rams essentially are, and it spoke to them. And you know, when you think of Dr. Dre, when you think of Eminem, when you think of 50 Cent, when you think of Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, those guys are as much Inglewood, Compton, those places. They're more of that than Hollywood, even though now they're very much Hollywood. But it was a very good performance. I loved Kendrick Lamar's entrance with the boxes, and you know, the guys were doing their thing. It honestly looked like all of those guys looked the same. It was an amazing performance from top to bottom. If I were to critique it, I thought Mary's was a bit cliche, so to speak, in terms of she performed amazing live. Her voice is amazing live. It's just that the choreography, and it was just kind of played out to me. But that's me just nitpicking. Obviously, having to critique it and not give it a full 10 stars. That's just my 9.5, my Bulgarian judgment there. But it was really a very good performance, and it is going to make me go through the other performances in recent memory to see if it really does hold up and where does it stack up. I mean, shoot, you had Eminem, arguably the greatest rapper of all time, and a white man kneeling. And a lot of people didn't like that, but it was so necessary. It was so important, particularly what has been happening literally in the last week with what was happening with Brian Flores and all of the black head coaches, you know, Lovie Smith being hired, etc., and the disparity there in the head coaching job. So it was not only culturally important for LA, but it was culturally important for the NFL. And you know, my concern going into it was a fear that you have all of these urban performers going into the halftime performance and it not resonating with the core demographic of the NFL and the Super Bowl. But I think it was well received in the stadium. Some tweets were kind of questioning a lot of things, but we're not going to talk about them. I think it was well received. I think generally a lot of people love that energy, particularly because of where it comes from. I give it 8.5 out of 10.
I'm going to save that last point, that very poignant point, for last, right? We can get in the back and forth about that, because I thought it's very important coming out of the whole Colin Kaepernick situation, entering into the Brian Flores, lawsuit, and then the fact that we see the disparity in terms of white to black head coaches, the firing of Brian Flores, the token hire of Lovie Smith, and the fact that no other head coaches could get any of the other 8 openings, despite the fact that we have, qualified candidates, namely Jim Caldwell, Eric Bieniemy, someone like, I'm missing name, Byron Leftwich, and then again, Raheem Morris, who is the defensive coordinator for the Rams, who really won this game for LA.
Yep.
So that's not what we wanted to talk about first. So I'm going to get into the actual halftime performance. And, I wanted to leave the production value to you because that's your side, that's your field. I thought the production value was extremely high. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Neil. It felt like LA. And I've heard a number of sports journalists who are LA-based talk about that. Like, what really hit home, this felt like LA. They gave the LA vibes. And obviously, you're in SoFi. LA, the Rams are playing as the home team, so to say. Like, so you had to hit home to the LA market, where it give you what you want. And the third member of this show always talks about it, Marsha, how a lot of these big companies are, going back and trying to reach out to a particular demographic. And it was clear here because when you look at the age of the performers, Mary J. Blige in her 50s, Dr. Dre in his 50s, Snoop in his 50s, Eminem 48, I want to say, or something like that.
Yep.
So it's clear the lanes that they were going down. And the performances themselves, as much as I typically like to see younger performers because they can balance breathing and performing at the same time, so it avoids them lip syncing. I had no problem with that because then, Neil, you've been to a number of live shows with rappers. Rappers typically are not good live because they shout into the mic.
Yep.
They did a good job of avoiding that, and I thought it all went smooth. And the tributes that they did, like California Love, making that tribute to Tupac. That was
powerful considering where it was too.
It was so powerful doing that, right? only issue I had, and I was speaking to you and Marsh about it as it was happening, is that you had Dre and Eminem there, and you didn't do Forgot About Dre. I'm like, how are you not doing Forgot About Dre? But, you know, you still had the other classics. And, you know, from Mary J, seeing Mary J perform again, Kendrick, who has sometimes dropped off the scene in terms of live performances. And I thought his energy, in terms of, it was brief, but his energy was there. Like, it hit the right chords and notes for me, Neil. I don't know about you, but in terms of ranking, again, you mentioned, I don't think I'm a Michael Jackson fanatic, so my bias is there. Michael Jackson, Prince's performance out of this world, and people will look at me funny because I have a white wife, so they'll say this. Lady Gaga.
I was thinking the same thing too. That's up there for me because she came in. Completely agree.
Production value, and because Lady Gaga is such a great live performer. You know, Neil, I have a thing for live performers, right? Like, there is so hard. Those three performances per se, and maybe Beyonce's, especially, was so iconic with the lights shutting off. But I put this in there, top 5, top 6 for sure, because just like there were no missed beats for lack of a better word. Like, you hit all the right notes, for, you know, pun intended. It just went well. It just went well. You reached out to my demographic. You catered to the LA market. And the set, Neil, oh my God. That set,
it was incredible.
The production value are basically saying, yo, Inglewood, yo, Compton, I see you. And as you correctly said, LA ain't all Hollywood. I hit it here. And for those, I'm going to say it here, for those naysayers who had a problem with it, you just have an issue with rap music. I won't see the other word they want to say in front of music. But if you had an issue with what went on there, you have an issue with rap music. Okay? Yeah. No, Neil, to the point you brought on, and I really want to hit on this because you know me, I don't shy away from the issues. I find it so, for lack of a better word, hilarious that you have all of these issues stemming from Colin Kaepernick to the clear situation of racism as it comes to head coaching hires. And this is what you do. It is almost to silence us, Neil. So you say, you know what we'll do to make you feel that we're on your side? Let's get Dre. Let's get Snoop. Let's get Mary J. Blige. Because for them, this is as black as you could get. And let's just be honest. For them, this is blackening up the place and appealing to our demographic. But they see right through NFL. And you can't have the situations going on as it listed. And then you're going to trick me by bringing these performers on stage.
Well, you know, I completely agree with that last part. You know, it's so funny that obviously when they were touted to do it, they didn't have all of this. We knew it was in the background, but it came to the fore with Brian Flores. And then, you know, when it was getting closer and closer and you saw what was happening in the NFL, it made me wonder, you know, is this the bone they're just throwing us to keep us quiet? You know what I mean? I must first apologize. Before I forget this point, I want to apologize to Marsha. This is not Mary J. Blige slander. She performed amazing. She's excellent live, and she showed it with the passion. She does this like guttural rendition of her music that is so powerful and passionate. It's just like found the choreography was generic. It to me, it was not as impactful as the others. So it's not necessarily on Mary J. Blige. But back to your point, Justin, I think that you are completely right in the analysis of the Tolkien halftime performance. Essentially, they gave us the halftime performance because there's other things going on. No, I think that it was a risk in a halftime performance considering the acts, and it was also, I guess, it was safe in the songs performed because it was very LA centric. It was some of the greatest hits. It was music that transcended race. Essentially, everybody know in the club, everybody knows Mary J's, Dr. Dre's, Eminem's. They know Snoop Dogg. They know those tunes because
well, you would think so, But Neil, I was at a watch party per se, and I won't tell you the race of the crowd involved, but someone asked the entire room, who is this performing? And no one could answer. So it was unfortunate that the token black in the crowd had to say, yeah, that's Mary J. Blige. But continue on, sorry to cross you.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that, but I would just say that it was just very interesting how the music selection, as you said, they didn't play Forgot About Dre. There were several you could have picked from any other song from Eminem. Shoot, even Kendrick Lamar was safe in the songs performed, and that's fine. It focused more so on LA, Compton, Inglewood. That is fine. I think overall, it was, we can say it's a bone given, but I think those guys performed, and Mary J. Blige, they performed really well in showcasing LA, their culture, and also just bringing a bit of cool, a bit of swag into do they still say swag? Anyhow,
No, I don't think.
we old, but yeah, but it was just good to see that energy. It was beautiful, particularly in LA. I mean, this wasn't just some other arena where it wouldn't have hit home or mattered. This was perfect. It was a perfect halftime performance in terms of the performers, the set, and where it was performed. And I love the fact that it was all relatable to me and me growing up, the music I love, etc. as a black man. So I can only imagine how African Americans, black people in America, how they felt about it.
I want to ask you, Neil, of the performers, which one was the one you remembered most? Which one hit you in your feels most? Which was the one that stood out?
That is a tough one for me. But if you had to really, as you say, put a gun to my head, I would say Eminem really did he stood out for me, not only because of the kneeling, but he performed really well. Especially, he said he was nervous before, he was saying he had some butterflies, etc. But he performed really well. Snoop was Snoop, right? Snoop is gonna do that all the time, do the crip walk and everything like that. Dre, I know he had some health issues last year, so I was kind of wondering how he was going to perform, but it was really poignant, him playing the piano and everything. That Mary was amazing. I thought, if I was going to be very honest, Mary, you see, I'm going to give Marsha some love. Mary J was second in the performances for me, because you have Eminem, then you have Mary J. Blige. Then if I were to put somebody after that, then I would, because 50 Cent was in the club, like it was, he didn't do much. Snoop really gave us a bit of thing. I would give Kendrick third, Snoop, and go down the line like that. So that's what stood out to me. Yeah, what about you? What was the number one performance for you?
Same, Eminem, Blake. And having then, when it transitioned to Dre going on the piano, like I thought that was brilliant, to start. Still Dre. I don't think that any point of that performance could have been any better. Yeah, but Eminem, I thought it would have been, like, because Kendrick is the youngest of the crowd.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Kendrick's performance was good. I thought he brought the energy, right? And no disrespect again to Marsha's Mary J. Blige. I thought she was good, but it was Eminem for me.
Yeah,
it really was Eminem for me, and that's why, again, I was hoping for the mentor and the mentee to hook up one more time.
Yeah,
with Forgot About Dre. He was really expecting that, but as Marsha and they were talking about it, he got to remember that there was a game going on, and that's what we knew the halftime show was good, because I'm here saying like looking for which track can come now.
You wanted more.
And then
yeah.
I wanted more. Like, I really wanted more, and it was almost like it was getting drawn into a sense of this is a concert, and then I had to quickly remind myself, wait a minute, there's a game going on, and that's when
this is really a limited amount of time they have to perform here.
And that's when you know that a performance is great, when you forget, hold on, there's a game going on, and not just a game, but a Super Bowl. Yeah, like, at first I was a bit too judgmental, but then when I took the time to step back and view everything as totality, I think that's a top 6 for me. I also want to put, not ahead of it, right behind it, Katy Perry's performances with the Lions. I thought that wasn't bad at all either, right? In terms of recency, right?
Right.
But in ranking, it's like MJ, Prince, and as I said, Lady Gaga, man. Like,
Lady Gaga was really good. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga, the performer, but I'm not necessarily a fan of her music, if that makes sense. I love her as an actress. I love her as a performer, entertainer, but I'm not like her discography doesn't stand out to me. You know what I mean? Like her,
right.
Yeah.
Before that performance, I'm not lying to you, I was not one that would tell you I'm a huge Lady Gaga fan, right? But as I said, I'm a guy who likes performers who can perform live. And when I saw that performance, and as you said about the production value, that this woman is tops.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the top three of all time, MJ, Prince, and Lady Gaga in some order. But this for me is a top 5, top 6. Yeah.
No, Justin Marvel, I have sat down all NFL season behind the scenes and watched you be a very good host, except for the one part where Dwayne was the host that one Monday and it was exceptional and Marsh and I were trying to get you off the show. But let's not dwell on that. But in all seriousness, no bad times. But in all seriousness though, we've had an amazing NFL season. It has concluded. Good, bad, and indifferent. Here, I've watched you do the hosting duties and you've always thrown in an extra question unscripted to these people. I'm going to do the same thing for you because turn around is fair play. So I'm going to ask you, Justin, out of this NFL season, we've had the Bengals making it to the Super Bowl. We've had the issues with race with the head coaches. We saw what was happening with your Packers and Aaron Rodgers and the whole COVID mess. We had Antonio Brown and whatever that was. We had Tom Brady trying to, go on a high win in the Super Bowl. And for a moment there, he did look like he was that guy, that player, that person that was going to ride out at 45 with another number 8. It wasn't to be. So out of everything that transpired this season, all the storylines, on field, off field, everything that would have happened, what stands out as number one for you?
It's sad to say, and maybe because I'm biased and I live here and I'm enveloped in it, but the entire drama surrounding Aaron Rodgers, it was start to finish. He entered the season, you didn't know whether he was going to play, whether he was going to play for the Packers, whether the Packers would be forced to play. That was like from draft night. That was the noise for the time. Adam Schefter reported that out of the Aaron Rodgers camp, he was never playing for Green Bay again. Walks into training camp late, wearing an office shirt with my man Kevin Malone. He addresses and has that very, very straight talking press conference where he reveals what was his issue with, organization going forward. Then he has another MVP type season. Like he won 4th MVP, 2nd in a row. But then before that, in the midst of it all, the COVID controversy, and it got bad because we were led to believe when a man says, yes, what's the word he used? Not inoculated. What's the other word he used, Neil? Not vaccinated. He said, I'm immunized. When you're asked, are you vaccinated? And the answer is yes, I am immunized. They tend to believe that yes, you have been vaccinated. Then we go to find out he's not vaccinated. And that wouldn't have been an issue unto itself if he had not lied about his status. And then on top of that, the stuff he spewed from talking about Joe Rogan, who is embroiled in his own controversy, as we've come to find out now, and then going on the line of spewing some anti-vax sentiments and then not backtracking from it. Then, you lead the Packers to the top seed and then have another playoff that the team you thought should have drafted you, and you're at home in cold weather, you lose that game. And now here we are again. Is he going to play? Is he going to play for the Packers? Is he going to be traded to Denver? Like, I don't know. I guess maybe as a Packers fan, but it felt like 2022 was the season of Aaron Rodgers on and off the field, from winning the MVP to the situation where no one knows if it's going to show up and know what's his future like. It felt like it was this a channel of all Aaron Rodgers. It just didn't turn off. And this is a season where arguably the greatest player of all time retired, where we see, the question marks of whether LA's bold strategy of trading away all these number 1 picks would result in them winning the championship. And they proved that. Matt Stafford proved that, it was just a Detroit situation. The Antonio Brown, and I just think all of these things, despite all of these things, it just felt like Aaron Rodgers loomed large over everything constantly. And we're talking about a season where we've seen even Brian Flores lawsuit. Just feels like Aaron Rodgers constantly loomed over this entire season.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely are right. It seemed like week after week after week for a minute there, it was just Aaron Rodgers on repeat, on the radio all the time, on the waves. But it has been a hell of a season. The LA Rams have become the Super Bowl champions. So that is it. That is it for the NFL season. I think personally, from a production standpoint, it was an amazing season. We had amazing guests, amazing analysis. You know, Joseph Lee Burrow, shout out my man, Dwayne Marcus, Steezy, shout out Brian Bolster, Germ, all of the guys that would have come on our show. It was amazing from behind the scene. Justin, I don't know if you have any final words to give on the NFL season in terms of this, Justin.
I will say I don't think I've seen an entire postseason put together like this one. Like, you've had some epic Super Bowls and epic performances, but for an entire postseason like this, where we saw one game after another being decided on the final possession, thought this was one of the better postseasons. And you know, Neil, I like to throw around that I've seen a lot of football. I thought from our end, Neil, and not just to pat ourselves on the back, that it was a great production value that we gave, a great lot of analysis. And I mean for the people that we brought in. So I just want to thank each and every one, and not just our own crew, but each and every one that has allowed us to make the 2021-22 NFL season a memorable one. But, you know, this Justin doesn't end there. We are more than just football. So now it's turn our attention to NBA, because there's no baseball league. I'm telling you this, Loco. Yeah. No matter what people want to tell yourselves, baseball is not returning anytime soon. So we're going to turn our gears and our eyes, our focus on the NBA season going forward. And I know that's your time of year. So, folks, be happy, because Neil is going to be in front of the camera every Monday now. And in terms of this late start, Neil has had some projects working on the side. Well, not even on the side, because this is really on the side for Neil.
Yeah. So,
really, you're going to see, I think we're going to keep this late start for at least another 2 or 3 weeks in terms of 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 Eastern Caribbean time. But yeah, we shift our focus, and there's a lot to talk about the NBA. Neil may not want to talk about his struggling Lakers, but I definitely want to talk about the rise of the Phoenix Suns, what's going on in Golden State, and there's a lot of trade stuff. But we have to next episode talk about Ben Simmons and James Harden trade scenario.
For sure. So many. There's so many storylines going in, and you know, I have the chat here, and I see a faithful Phoenix Suns fan, a 49er fan, and Mario Loki just popped in with the sun. He watched the entire episode saying nothing, and all of a sudden he could find the emoji for the sun. But in all seriousness, though, I can't wait. The storylines are amazing. Shoot, even the Lakers storylines, as frustrating as it is as a fan, it is still interesting to watch. There is something for everyone in the NBA. It may not be as juicy as the NFL season that just went down, but I guarantee you it will be fun. But, Justin, as you can see, we are about 2 minutes past. We are actually at an hour. This is how a real host. Marsha is proud of me. I am sure. I don't even have to. Yeah, she's proud of you. But amazing season for the NFL. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Justin, I'm going to let you do the whole, because you know the times very, very well. You know, Justin did say 9 Barbados time, 8 Eastern. I don't know Central. I don't know East Coast. So, I mean West Coast, sorry. So I'll let you handle that point.
So, guys, as I said, going forward, I think for the next 2 or 3 Mondays, you know how to find us here right here on YouTube. But for the next 2 or 3 Mondays, we are going to go 8 p.m. Eastern time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time. 7 Central, and that's 5 Pacific time up there in the West Coast with my guy CTA Smith up there in Seattle. You know how to find us when we're not live. We put content daily, not weekly, not daily. So you can find us. That's hashtag this just in. Please be sure to put the hashtag in front. You do not want to watch Matt Kellerman's cold takes. We bring nothing but the truth, and we bring stats to justify our arguments here on the show. Hashtag this just in. We are on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, all the socials. And as usual, every Monday night and going forward, as I said, at 7 p.m. Pacific time, I messed up there. That is 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and 9 Eastern Caribbean time, including Barbados. Thank you all so much. Thank you for everyone who has helped us with our NFL production. It is NBA season going forward. So for Marshall on the socials, for Neil right here in front of the camera, I am Justin of This Just In signing out. Put the hashtag in. We will see you back in the same space on Monday.
Good night, everybody. Peace and love.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with me, ain't no matter here just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.